Welcome to the Joy Work Show, the podcast that goes beyond the surface of business, right to the heart, to explore the real joy and the real stories behind success. Not just the moments of celebration, but the challenges that pave the way for them. I'm Diane, and today I cannot believe that we are celebrating our 1 year anniversary. Technically, it's tomorrow. This episode will come out on the 1st of December, and our first episode came out on the 2nd of December. That's just the way the dates fell last year. But this week is our 1 year anniversary. We have been going for a whole year. I am flabbergasted, delighted, not surprised, because I set out for what I wanted to do with this podcast. More of that coming later on in the week with my solo episodes and my reflections. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring you a series of 4 episodes that are the people who were listened to the most, downloaded the most, liked the most, shared the most. I used the data, and the 4 people that came up, I could not be more delighted about. So this series, I'm inviting back some of the guests whose conversations shaped the show in its first year. And our first one is a special return because I'm welcoming back Laura. If you listen to her original episodes, which I will link in the show notes, you'll remember her grounded honesty, her commitment to building a life and business that actually feels good, and her ability to name the things we all feel but rarely say. And over the past year, Laura has lived her word, calm, in a way that has transformed both her business and her personal life. Today, in this episode, we talk about the shift from hustle energy to intentional calm, how choosing slowness has actually created more growth, the power of small, meaningful moments in finding joy, and what happens when you align your business with your values, how intentional choices have supported her well-being, and what this year has taught her about balance, boundaries, and being present. This is less hustle, but absolutely not less ambition. The conversation is steady, warm, and full of reminders that joy doesn't come from the big leaps. It comes from the small, consistent, conscious choices we make every day. But as always, it is so much better to hear from the guests themselves, even second time round. So let's go. Hi, Laura, and welcome back to the Joy Work Show. Thank you so much for joining me today for one of our year 1 birthday anniversary celebratory episodes. So thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you for having me, and congratulations on a year of the podcast.
Thank you
What a great
so
achievement.
much. I cannot believe it's been a year. I cannot believe when this comes out, it will have been a whole year, and what a year it's been. For anybody that wants to go and listen to Laura's original episode, it was out on the 1st of May, and it was called How to Be Seen, Building Confidence, Brand Power and Joy Through Photography. And I think that's just a little snapshot of what it was about. Sorry, I didn't intend that pun at all there when I said snapshot.
Okay.
But that's just a little snapshot of what it was, because I think what you do is so much more than that. But you can go and listen to the back story there. But let's find out about where you're up to now. So since we last spoke, how has your year been? What has changed for you in your business?
I feel like a lot has changed, but also not a lot has changed. Like, the core principles of my business obviously are still very much the same. The core values that I sort of work to and stand by, and that form the heart of everything that I do. But I think this is my 4th year doing what I'm doing, and I feel like this year has been the biggest shift probably in the way that I approach my business. I think for the first 3 years I had I use this car analogy a lot, so you'll have to forgive me, but I feel like I had my foot like flat on the floor on the accelerator the whole time. I didn't let up. And this year January started very, very slowly. I think I work with a lot of product-based businesses, and I think where Christmas is quite hard on product-based businesses because they really have to push in December to get those sales in, because that's their sort of busiest time of the year.
Yeah,
And
of
obviously it's been a
course.
lot harder in general for all small businesses of late. I feel like January, they all just wanted to sleep, basically. So I spent lots of January worrying that I was never going to get another booking. And as much as I have regular subscription clients that kind of keep me going, that's always a worry. But then from mid-February onwards, it just went crazy and I was fully booked. Well, I've been fully booked until now, which was great from a confidence and a sort of a business perspective, I suppose. But for me, I got to September, which was my busiest month ever. And I could really feel it taking its toll on me. And so in September, I brought in quite a few little, what you would say are little changes, but that have actually made quite a big difference to how I approach the business. And now they're starting to kind of flow through everything I do. And yeah, so I've kind of, my word of the year, I have a word every year. My word of the year this year was calm. And I feel like it took me until September to really work out what that meant in a business respect. And I feel like now I'm kind of there and I'm feeling calmer about my business. I'm hustling less and trusting the process more, to name all of the cliche.
Do you feel, was that an intentional shift for you? Was it something that,
It wasn't ever something I really planned. I always wanted to bring I think I came from teaching that was very rushy, very like you're always on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And I knew that my own nervous system needed a bit of calm brought to it, which is why I chose it as my word of the year. But I didn't really feel that I could bring that into the business until the point where I thought, if I don't do something, I'm going to break. I travelled an awful lot in September. And there was a point where, when the kids go back to school in September and there's all these little bugs that start doing the rounds and stuff. And both of my children were they weren't ill, but they were sort of fighting things. And I had this moment sat at the breakfast table where I thought, what if I get ill? I have no capacity. And I know you don't ever really have capacity in a small business to be ill, but it would have blindsided me to be ill. And I thought, I can't carry on in that way. I need to build something in that's going to support me so that if I do get ill, I can manage that, but also to protect me from getting ill in the first place, really. So
yes.
I feel like it wasn't planned, but it got to a stage where it had to happen.
So do you feel that could be one of the things that surprised you about this year, that this is where you found, because you've started it off saying that you wanted the word of the year was calm, so that's what you wanted this year to be, but it took you until September, like we're over
Yeah, so
halfway through the year.
personally, I'd sort of built in things that brought me calm at home and sort of taken the pressure off myself as a mum and all the rest of it. But in the business, I felt like I really had to just keep pushing, keep my foot down on the accelerator, not let up. And actually, in stepping back slightly and taking my foot off the gas a little bit, I've allowed space, and that's brought different opportunities my way and has sort of slightly changed the direction that I want the business to go in, if that makes sense, and changed my messaging around what I'm talking about to my clients. And just it's a small, probably from the outside it's quite a small tweak, but to me it's quite fundamental to what the business looks like.
Well, I think that's it. I think sometimes the most powerful things can be, to the outside world, it seems just like you've changed something, something's got fresher, brighter, that type of thing. But to you internally, you're seeing the vision. So you're looking at what this tweak can do for me in the next 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, and what that looks for, like your business foundations. And nobody sees that in the outside world. Nobody sees the decisions that get you there, the compromises that get you there, the burnout, the spiraling that gets you there, and the bravery to make those choices and to say, this is how I want my business to look like, for my life to look that way. Is that so? If I asked you that, where do you think that joy has shown up in unexpected ways this year? Take it we'd been going down that same path.
Yeah, but also little things like, so one of the changes that I made was, I don't know how you feel, as I think we're a similar age, but I'm certainly a woman in my 40s, menopause. I'm trying to work out, I'm trying to walk, I'm trying to eat my protein, I'm trying to, not have caffeine for the first hour of the day, all of these things in my head. And one of the things that I was finding was getting squeezed out sometimes, and I'm quite a fair weather person as well, was walking the dog. So as much as I was walking the dog every day, it would sometimes be a bit of a rush at the end of the day after work, or squeezing it in around things. And one of the shifts that I made in September was that I decided I was going to start every single day by walking the dog, regardless of the weather, regardless of what the day. I mean, there are a few days where I might be traveling or something like that, and that's not possible. But I would say 95% of the time, that is how I start my day. My kids go to school, and I walk out the door and I walk the dog. Sometimes I go into town and get a coffee. Sometimes I just go to the beach. But that is like a non-negotiable now of my day. And that in itself has been huge, because also at that time I take my camera out with me, and I've noticed, the changes in the seasons and little snapshots of where I live and things that you don't necessarily notice. And in that time, I don't have my phone on, I don't look at my phone. I'll have a podcast on, but sometimes I just have nothing. And that has made, I can't explain what a massive difference that's made to my day.
And it's such a small thing. And if somebody was to say to you that thing of, that small thing can make such a difference, and actually when you're in a good place and somebody was to say, no, just, just by taking a dog out, and you'd be like, oh yeah, I take my dog out. You would, it's one of those easy breezy things. You'd be like, well, my dog gets walked. But you don't realize that you're not, like you said, not making the time to make it, not an event. It's that, like, I talk to people about like romanticizing things, romanticizing your life, like making a
I'm
cup of
massive
tea.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can romanticize it a little bit. I love hot baths. I've spoken about hot baths quite a lot in the best podcast recordings I've done the last couple of days. I think I'm kind of obsessed. But a hot bath isn't just about a bath to me. It's about a candle and a nice drink, and not necessarily alcohol. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's a cup of
Yeah.
tea. And it'll be about the book that I read while I'm in the bath, or I might watch one of my favorite programs, or it's that time. It's not just, oh, I'm having a bath and I'm getting clean. It's a ritual, and
Yeah, I think
so
that those rituals are so important, aren't they? And that's
yeah.
definitely that, and sort of leaning into the seasons a little bit more and how I feel during that time. It all sounds a little bit woo, but it's about, I know that I'm better, more productive early in the morning, and that later in the day I sort of have a bit of a dip. So I try and, go with that routine, I suppose, if you like. One of the other things that I do, talks about rituals, is that I come downstairs in the morning and I have my cup of tea in peace. I light a candle and I just sit in peace before I, touch my phone, touch anything else. But yeah, those really small things. And that's what I said about, I don't think necessarily anybody outside of my business would have noticed, any of my clients or the people that I work with on a weekly basis would have noticed. But to me, there's been 4 or 5 different shifts that have just made the world of difference.
But it's that thing, isn't it? Like you said, you are learning to trust the process more, and in having these rituals, by choosing yourself, you're telling yourself, your body, your mind, that you are trusting the process, and you trust yourself because you are important. You are the person, and to be the best version of yourself, to show up as the best version that, like you say, nobody else sees. They might just say, "Oh, there's just something about you just now. You seem like you're doing really, really well." But behind the scenes, you're like, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And it might be this list of stuff to somebody else would be like, that just sounds like you're giving yourself loads of rules to live by. But the impact that they are having. Like, I know the impact, as you know, I've got chronic illnesses, and I know the impact of when I make choices to look after my health. And like, I've had people messaging me recently saying, "Oh, in your videos, you're looking really well." And I thought that the health had taken a turn. And I was like, oh, it still has. But it's amazing the difference it can make when I prioritise me. Can still, because I then am not better, but I look better, I feel better, I'm looking after my energy and those things. So it's just you're teaching yourself to trust yourself, which means you can trust the process.
Yeah.
Which I think when we're in that burnout phase, we're not trusting anything because we can't, because we don't know what's going to happen next. And like you said, you sat at the kitchen table like, what if I get ill? Whereas actually now you're probably like, well, if I got ill, these things are in place. It's not ideal. It's not ideal for any business. It's not ideal for any parent, really,
No.
to get ill or, but you're like, but these things are in place and it would be okay because I trust myself that it will be okay. And that's just, I mean, we're talking a matter of a couple of months
Yeah. Yeah.
of you making those change.
And I would say that I think I looked at September and realised that I was not only fully booked, but I was overbooked. I'd sort of said yes to so many things because A, you don't want to let people down, but also you don't want to turn down that income when it's offered to you and so on. And it wasn't anything that I have learned over the last couple of years not to say yes to things that don't align, but all of these things kind of did. So I didn't want to say no to any of them. And even whilst I was in that and it was like a bit insane, those little things helped me to get through that period as well. So yeah, the power of those really small things. And I think we talked last time a lot about how I'm really big on just finding those little small pockets of joy in your day. And it was about really sort of hyper focusing on those, I suppose, so that then by the time I sit down at my laptop or I get into the studio and I'm shooting or I get out on the branding shoot, I am in a better place to do that, to give my all to whatever I'm doing. It's that old drink
Exactly.
water from an empty cup thing, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly it. But it is about finding those moments of joy. We have spoke about this and we did speak about it in the last episode that it's, people often think it's the big moments, it's the obvious moments, and it's when joy is in abundance and overflowing with birthdays and celebrations and big life achievements, and life milestones. But that's not the stuff that keeps us going. That's not the fuel. That's not the thing that gets you changing your business, changing the way your life is structured and actually saying, no, this is what I want it to look like. This is what I want it to be and what's now important to me, and having that bravery to say that and the courage to follow it through. It's those little
It's the
moments.
day-to-day things, isn't it? And I don't know about you, but I quite often find sometimes if you build up to those big things, sometimes they can be a bit of an anticlimax and a bit of a
Yeah.
disappointment.
Yeah.
Or you're so knackered by the time you get there that you can't enjoy them. So actually, those little moments in the day is really important. And now my kids, we sit at the dinner table sometimes or the breakfast table maybe, and I'll say to them like, what was the best thing today? What was the best thing about your day? And so they're learning to kind of spot those little things. And often they're tiny, somebody let me in the queue at lunchtime, or my friend had a spare biscuit and she gave it to me, or, they're teenagers. So these things you wouldn't have thought would be that important, but actually to them, those little things are as important to them as well.
But that's
So
it. We
hopefully
don't
them
give
to
them enough
notice.
credit, that those things are important, and it's having the conversations. And we've been having a conversation in this house about that it's that learned behavior that, it's like, it's not that thing of when you're trying to tell your kids or you're trying to discipline your children or any of things like that. And you feel like you're just saying it, saying it, saying it, saying it, saying it. And you're like, why is this not working? Like, because they're not seeing it. They're not seeing it in the house, what we're asking them to do. So we need to do that. And it's on the days where I feel that I've been rushing or stressed or not created that time. And I think it's really important because that's them when they learn, and you by having those conversations, they're like, oh, that was a really good moment today,
Yeah.
and I asked my little girl at, I can't remember if it was last night or the night before, and she was like, oh, I coloured in a star. I was like, oh, did you? Was that your favourite? She was like, that was my favourite moment today. Can I have a biscuit?
And actually, when I was in teaching, I used to say to parents, because you get that thing where parents would come to me and say, oh, they never tell me about their day. Or I'll say to them, what did you do at school today? And they'd be like, oh, can't remember, nothing, and it's quite frustrating as a parent. I used to say to parents, wait until dinner time, because they need that processing time after school. So don't do it on the way home from school. Wait until dinner time, but also don't ask, what did you do today, or what did you learn today, or whatever. But like, who did you play with at break? Or
Mhm.
who made you smile today? Or what nice thing did you do for somebody else? Because then that generates that conversation as well. So
Mhm.
and then you are also teaching them to look for those tiny things that may
Yeah.
have seemed
Well, what you
insignificant, but
did
there's
today is such a big question. So to
yeah.
them, it'd be like, I did lots. I don't quite know. I don't know. I don't know because I can't
And then
remember the
it's like shut
finite
down. Yeah.
details. Yeah. I'm just, you're overwhelming me. I'm tired. I've been at school all day and now you're asking me to, I was there for however many hours that it's school. So do you think your definition of joy or your feelings towards joy has evolved since the last time that we spoke?
I don't think so, because I've always been about finding those little moments. That is my thing. But I think having the confidence to transfer that into my business is what's changed. Because I spoke before about the fact that, there's no plan B for this business. It's kind of,
This
this
is
is what
it.
I'm all about. So it has to work. So for me to kind of go, oh, well, I need to slow down a little bit, was really counterintuitive to what I knew I needed to do for the business, or I thought I needed to do for the business. So to have the confidence to say, no, it's okay to create that space and to say, well, I'm going to, where possible, I'm not going to shoot on a Monday or a Friday. Or if I do, I'll create another day in the week, because those are going to be my editing days, my admin days, all of those things that you need to do that aren't just holding a camera. That felt scary to me. But now I feel like that is, I don't know, like a non-negotiable, because otherwise I can't do my job to the best of my ability.
Mhm.
So I think that's the shift, is that whilst I've always been about that in my sort of private life, it was bringing it into the business, and then talking to my clients about that and saying, like, part of my job is about bringing you calm, because if
Mhm.
you've got if you've got a set of beautiful images that you can use to do your marketing that are just there on hand, you don't have to worry about the time it takes to do it yourself, or, all the rest of it, then that's me taking something off your plate to give you some space. So it kind of works both ways.
And that's it. And I think to go back to the cam thing, it's like to best serve your clients, like nobody wants to trust themselves, their business with somebody who, and I'm not suggesting that you were, but just that rushing from one thing to another from that. And I think that the reason I'm saying that is I think a lot of business owners are scared to take their foot off the pedal, think they
Mm.
need to be in hustle mode all of the time, think they need to be, busy, 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 busy. But if they're not up on their laptop at 11 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning, then they're not a business owner. They don't deserve, they need to go through those pains to have a successful business.
I think it's not just business owners. I think it's people in, normal, that's not
Yeah.
the word I'm searching for, but, in traditional jobs, if you like,
Yeah.
that, I know that when I was in teaching, there was like a perceived badge of honor if you were the first person in the morning, or the last
Yes.
person to leave at night, or if you were replying to emails at 11 o'clock. And, you know, I know people who have jobs that are very stressful, and there is this thing of like, if I'm not doing that, then I'm not doing my job properly, or I'm not doing it to the best of my ability. I think in all walks of life, to a point.
Completely. Completely. But I think what people need to learn is actually creating more space, creating more time, looking after yourself, prioritizing rest when you need to prioritize rest actually makes you more productive, more effective, and means in your instance you'll look after your clients in a completely different way. And we all get very good at masking. Like we all get very good at turning up and being able to look on and like there's no problems at all. And in your instance, take the pictures, do a brilliant job, have people. But I bet you've noticed a shift from you being camera, that what you're able to produce and create and
Allowing me more space to be creative, I think, rather than just, I'm gonna, fulfill the brief. Now I might take a bit of time to do something just slightly different and send that to the client, and they'll be like, oh, I quite liked that. Wasn't, that's different from what you've done before, but I like it. Or it's just allowed me time to kind of improve my skill set and think about different things that I could do and different ways that I can do things, even silly things like it's given me time to look at a kind of workflow plan for my business so that I'm, not good when times do get busy, I'm not missing those crucial things, which, to be fair, I never have yet, but where it had got really busy, that was my fear, was that I was going to drop a ball somewhere. So to be able to implement a system that helps me to keep track of that properly, again, has been a game changer that, you wouldn't see from the outside. But for me, yeah, it's created that space for me to be more creative, to think about ways that I can serve my clients better, and to be more creative in what I offer as well.
No, and that's it. And this is why joy is brave, because you don't know that those things are going to happen until you make the decision to give the time and the space and the effort to make it happen. So at some point, you bringing that, your ethos or value of joy into your business, is super brave, because you didn't know it was going to work out. You didn't have a crystal ball that this was how it was going to go. Yes, you're building trust in yourself and trust in the process, but it could have gone a different way. But your intuition was telling you that this is kind of make or break for yourself. So, like, if I don't make a change, something's going to happen here. Don't know what it is, but it's going to happen. So you took back control of it. But choosing that and bringing that joy in is a brave act to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's a scary thing.
Yeah, I think, like I said, when you're trying to build something that supports, your family and the life that you want to lead and so on, to make that space is scary. But yeah, it's important.
It is super
And what's the
important.
point in being your own boss if you can't make it look how you want it to look?
But this is it, isn't it? And like, so many people start a business because they want choice and they want kind of ownership of their own destiny and they want freedom and they want to earn more income or enough income to pay the bills or whatever it may be. And then they just give themselves another job, or a job they leave a 9 to 5 that they didn't want to do to get a 7 till 11, because,
I
and
think the
it's,
the thing I noticed was that when I was teaching, I used to get the Sunday scaries that I know you talk about. And when I left teaching, that evaporated, if you like. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And what I found this year was that it was creeping back in a little bit. And that fear of opening my emails was there. And all of the things that I'd sort of got rid of were kind of filtering back in. It was only when I noticed that and I thought, I'm not enjoying it like I want to be enjoying it. And if you're not enjoying it, then you can't give your best to everybody else, can you? And it wasn't, I was still enjoying taking photos. It was all of the other bits around it that I was finding tough. So noticing that on a Sunday night, I was like, oh, I don't want to check my emails, or, things like that was where the shift, I think, really happened for me, and where I thought, no, I need to do something about this.
so has there been any like fundamentals or foundations within your business that has changed, or is it still that you're still offering the same things, the same offers and products, or has there been a bigger shift there for you at all?
I think there is a bigger shift coming, if that makes sense. I don't want to say loads. Thinking about 2026, and I was listening to your podcast a few weeks ago about that, really spoke to me about the things that you do now to prepare you for next year are really important. So without really realizing it, I sort of sat down and kind of thought about what I want the business to look like. And I don't think it's going to be anything huge, but in
Yeah, you're
terms
still
of,
going to be a photographer.
yeah, exactly. I'm still going to offer product and branding, but I think it's about where I put my focus and time and the sorts of people that I want to be working with, and how I can best serve those people in a way that's a bit different from what else is out there, hopefully. So yeah, I think there is a shift coming. I don't know if it's fundamental, but it's certainly a shift. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of bring it back to where I wanted to start. I think when you start a business, you have this idea in your head of what it's going to look like, and then you kind of go down lots of wiggly paths, don't you? Which is great because it opens lots of new opportunities, and there are things coming up that I'm doing that are a bit different for me, which is great. But I also want to really go back to what I wanted it to look like in the first place and sort of really focus on that a bit more now that I've got the confidence to do that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And it's that thing. One of the questions I was going to ask was, how has joy guided your decisions or your leadership now? And that's, I guess, what it has done, because you're now making decisions of, and I think we can do that. We can get so far from what we wanted when we sat down and did our mission, our vision, our values for our business, and kind of where we wanted it to go. And sometimes that's a great thing, and it can take you down a different path. And you're like, oh, thank goodness that happened. This is exactly, I didn't know I wanted this till I got it. And this is exactly where I want to be. And other times it can be like, that path was great, but I can see where that's going now, and I need to bring myself a little bit more back over to where I thought it would be. And it doesn't mean where you've been has been wrong. It's just like, but if I continue on this path, this isn't what the dream that I had. And what I loved about what you said there was the people that I want to work with. And I think this is what business owners don't do enough of, is think about, because there's a lot of particularly service providers that when you see their title and see what they are and what they do, there is no limit to who they can work with.
Mm.
But that doesn't always mean, like when I talk about dream client, in my head, dream client's different from ideal client. Your ideal client is somebody that you can help, work with, provide the service to, and it would be absolutely fine. But your dream client is the person that it feels like a dream, that it is, you are aligned and you can give them the transformation that they look for, and they're ready for that transformation. There's enough friction for you to help each other, but not the friction that's going to stop that transformation from coming. So from you saying, like, when I said the original question of how has joy guided your decisions or leadership this year, that's you taking leadership, because that's you
Yeah.
making a leadership decision of, no, these are the people that I want to work with.
We talked a little while ago and you talked about levers, didn't you? And about what do I want to have more of, and what do I need to let go of to allow that to happen. So I think, again, that had a big impact on how I thought about things going forward. So that's it in a nutshell for me.
Yeah. But that's it. It's, you want to have a business where you can be like, well, if I turn this on and turn that off, then you want to have that flexibility, that you have lots. It's not about lots of different offers. It's about keeping it simple, but knowing what's working, what's not working. Right. I'll turn that one on because that's where I want to go. That's my core offer. That's never going anywhere. But actually I want to experiment a little bit over here. And it's just really important. And it's having that understanding of your business. And I can really see that you're looking at your business like that now. And I'm definitely going to be asking you after this podcast about 2026. You don't need to give anything away.
Gossip, yeah. You'll probably be like, oh, it's not that much of a change, really. But yeah.
It is. A bit it is. So is there anything this year, I mean, you have spoke a little bit about it, but is there anything this year that is been very uncomfortable to go through, or has brought that kind of real kind of having to dig deep, that has ended up being completely joyful? Or does that go back to that September time again for you?
I think so, yeah. I think it does. It was that feeling of the rush and the overwhelming, like almost panicky feeling of, I have got so much to do. I don't know how I'm going to fit it into. And somebody on the outside would have probably said, oh, Laura, you've got loads of time. But actually, as a busy mum as well, trying to fit everything in and still do all the things that you need to do. And it was that rising panic, I think, of that, and the Sunday scary feeling and so on. And so, yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge for me. The changes that I've made have made me feel so much, like the weight's lifted off my shoulders, and I can take a big deep breath and trust that and that's the other thing, is like feeling that I can trust myself and my decisions. And I don't know if that just comes from having done this for 4 years now and knowing that, the bookings will come, or whether it's a shift that I've had personally. I don't really know, but certainly that's been the biggest thing for me, and that's where the joys come from.
I just think it's so interesting that you started the year with the word calm, and I know we've spoke about it, but it really hit me there when you were talking that you started the year with the word calm, but it didn't quite embody itself. And it's almost like the year, and this is me going to go a bit woo, but it's almost like the year was saying to you, you said this and I'm going to keep presenting it and presenting it and
Yeah.
presenting it and presenting it until you sort it out, because we're not ending 2025 without you feeling calm.
Yeah, that's probably very true. And that's why I have a word of the year, because I'm not a resolution person. I'm not I have sort of themes of things that I'd like to do, but I don't put the pressure on like big resolutions. So a word is something that I try to have sort of as a running thread through everything that I do. But yeah, it was almost like I hadn't done that for the business. And it was like, why not? And this is what's going to happen if you don't. And I remember last Christmas feeling almost to the point of burnout and thinking, just, when you're trying to work and nothing's kind of going in and you don't feel like you're fully present, you feel like you're a bit detached from everything. And I got to September and I thought this is going to happen again if I don't do something, and probably sooner than December. So yeah, that's been the biggest shift for me, really. So
Amazing. Amazing. It is. It's so interesting. I do have a word of the year as well, and I like it for exactly the same reasons, because I'm not a resolutions person, but I definitely use it as a reflection of the year. And I'm definitely, when I say goal setting, it's much more goal setting for the year and just where I want the year to go. But that'll start for me, what's kind of already started, and it'll start for me throughout December. That's what I'll be looking forward to and forward, because I like the new year, I like that, but
yeah,
I don't like the pressure. It's not going to
not
be
in
anything.
years
It's not
at the
going to be like
start.
personal goals of I'm not eating chocolate or anything silly like that. I've got enough of that going on with the health stuff. So yeah, it's not going to be anything to do with that. It's just about, this is where it's like the intention. Like it's a
It's also
time,
holding yourself to account, isn't it? Because,
of
like you
course.
said, if I'd have got to December and I'd have reflected on that word of the year and gone, well, that's not worked, I've not brought that into the business and I don't feel calm, then, what am I going to do about it? So, yeah, it's a bit of an accountability thing as well to have that and to kind of
And it
go,
isn't
this
it,
is what life to look like. How am I going to get there?
and it comes back to that trust as well. Like you will sit on New Year's Eve and be like, I set out my stall, I put my word of the year as calm, and I feel calm. Cheers.
Yeah.
And I've made sure that that's the way. And I was terrified of bringing it into my business, but I did it. And now look at what can happen from here on in. And already having a successful business, I think that's something to be said here as well. You're not a year in and being
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, I started a bit, out the starter blocks, and then I realized I had to calm down. This is like, I have a successful business and I'm still being brave enough to make. And some people would say, well, because she had a successful business, she'd be
Yeah.
able to make the decisions.
Is a privileged place to be, but,
But it's also scarier because you're established
yeah.
and people have this expectation, and you're like, yeah, but to get here, this is what it looked like. And I'm going to change how that looks. And you might not see that, but I can see it and this can see it.
Yeah.
That's where the bravery comes back in.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so the joy questions.
Okay.
The three joy questions, that they're slightly different for the celebration episodes than before. So the first one is something you found joy in this year that you didn't expect.
Oh, there are a few things. So I think my dad gets an honourable mention in this, and he'll be thrilled because I think he was the biggest listener to my podcast last time round. I have, as part of my dog walking, I've got into the habit of regularly meeting my dad for coffee in town, and it's just a real privilege, isn't it, to sit and chat to your parents like that. And yeah, I've really enjoyed that. And we went to Italy in September, and it kind of came out of that because we really enjoyed sitting outside coffee shops and just setting the world to rights. So we kind of decided to carry that on. So that's been just a lovely part of my week, really. So
I
yeah.
love that. I love that. And something that is coming up a lot, I think it's a big conversation in the online space at the moment as well, but something that's came up on quite of the last few episodes that I've recorded and throughout the year, to be perfectly honest, is what success looks like to people. And different people have different success markers.
Mm.
And I truly believe that people deserve to have the success that they want. And for me, yes, but for me, at meeting your dad in the morning is a success marker,
Yeah.
because you have a life and a business that allows you to do that. But the reason I hesitated then and then went back was because but you've made that choice. You've made the
Yeah.
choice to have the business that does that, but also on every day, there's not that, oh, do you know what, I'm too busy. Because that's the easy thing to do, because we're all too busy. We're always too busy.
Mm.
None of us have any time, but you can choose what you do with the time. And you've
Yeah.
made that choice and that probably has brought about one of the greatest shifts for you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're also telling yourself that you deserve to do that. You're a business owner and you get to do that. I think it's really, really powerful.
I was just about to say there's a real power in knowing that you can tailor your business to what you want your life to look like. And I wouldn't say I'm like 100% there yet, but I'm certainly, you know, on the journey, which I don't think I really was a year ago. Hadn't really occurred to me that I could do that. So, yeah,
Well, I think it's sometimes we tell ourselves that we don't deserve to do that because only people that earn X amount get to do that, or only when you're this. But if you spoke to those people, a lot of them won't be doing it. A lot of
yeah,
them will be getting up at the crack of dawn, working till goodness knows what time of night and going again. They won't be. And you'll be thinking, what are you doing it for? Where is the joy in that? And hey, I get joy. I can be a workaholic. I know you'll have the tendencies to do the same, and I get joy from my work. But there is also more to life,
yeah,
and it's allowing yourself to do that, but also telling yourself that you deserve it. And also, it's one of the reasons that we started our businesses
yeah,
in
absolutely.
the first place.
Also, one of the things I want to bring to the people that I work with, because they're all self employed as well. And I want to be able to, help them to do that as well. So, yeah.
Brilliant. That is a gorgeous one. The second question is a person, practice, or principle that's helped you protect your joy.
Okay. So there were, I think, 5 very short ones, but these are all the little things that I decided I was going to do in September. So they're like my non negotiables. So the morning walk is one. I don't check my emails now before 9 and after 5 unless I choose to. So, but generally on a day to day basis, I don't check my emails before then because I had them on my phone. It was one of those, I think we spoke the other day actually
Okay.
about you do Instagram, do Facebook, you do LinkedIn, you then do, your emails, and it became like a habit. So that I stop for lunch every day now. Might only be half an hour, but I make sure I eat properly at lunchtime. At the end of the week, I clear down this workspace and set it up ready for Monday morning. So it's not because this is in my house. So it's, my workspace is, I can shut the door, but it's still
There.
there. So to clear that noise, I do that. And I'm trying to remember what the 5th one is now. Can't remember what that was. But yeah, so emails, reading. So I make time to read every single day because I found real joy in that this year as well. And I've read more books this year than I have in many, many years previously because I find it helps me wind down before bed. But yeah, those 5 seemingly very small things that I've really stuck to since September. Yeah, those are the practices so just 5 kind of non-negotiables for my day that help me to kind of navigate all of the stuff that life throws up, really.
They are so brilliant because they are so normal, for want of a better word,
Yeah,
that
there's
anybody
nothing.
can do them. They don't cost money. It's not, oh, it's this app or it's this thing or it's this, and they are yours. And obviously I know because we've spoke a lot about it, is that how transformative this has been for you, and the thought that it's just those simple things, because people will be like, oh, she's learned a brand new strategy for her business, or she's learned this marketing hack, or she's done a digital course and she's now going to be a millionaire or something like that. But it
I
isn't.
wish.
Yeah, well, you can do it if you wanted to do it,
Oh
but
yeah, absolutely.
it's these tweaks, these small things in the day, but they have become your non-negotiables. And in a short space of 2-3 months, they have transformed the way you feel, the way you're looking at your business. You're still to see the success, but as I said, you had a successful business anyway, but you were aware that you were on this trajectory that you didn't want to be on anymore. And the fact that they are now, they'll stay with you forever.
Yeah, I think they will. And you saying, I haven't seen the success of them. I have already got bookings coming in for January, February, and March. I
Oh,
booked for
amazing.
March the other day. So I do really believe that giving myself that space has then allowed me to sort of create other opportunities, if that makes sense. And so, whereas last year I was thinking, oh God, January's really quiet, this year I'm already thinking, well, I've got 3 events in January now that I'm doing and various other things. So, whilst I will be easing my way back into the new year and taking some time to work on the business, I still, I've got that little bit of like, I don't know, that belief, I suppose, that is, it'll be okay.
Yeah, and that's a brilliant way to look at it. And it's that belief again. It's that belief in the trust, and you're now creating that within your business. And because you're now trusting it, your business is now showing it, and it's showing it with those bookings, with that things coming in and being in a completely different place because you're not running on that nervous energy, which isn't good for anybody,
Mm.
at all to be running on. It's just so interesting that it can be something, and these 4 episodes are going to be really really interesting when they come out, because there is so many similar themes coming up, and space and time is right up there, of giving ourselves that space and trusting it and this is about this isn't and I think what's really important to say at this point is this is an unintentional space. This isn't us just getting up in the morning and be like, oh, do you know what, I'm just not going to work on the business today. It's not. This is about intentional ways of building days, weeks, months in our lives and business that then make it all work, and it all work together, and it's like an orchestra. It's like when it all works together, it is beautiful. But if the trombone goes off in a tangent, it sounds awful. And it's just keeping all of that going. And when you have a small business and children and partners and families and all the other things, and you're in your 40s and
Hopefully
being
all
in your
those
40s as a woman.
I'm a nicer person as well with it, because again, I'm not running on that, and I know, and yeah, people in my life will tell you that if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I can snap and, like the rest of us. So hopefully it's, made me nicer to be around as well sometimes.
It's just that, isn't it? Like, if I'm overwhelmed and I'm feeling the pressure, even just being in the house with 2 young children, a partner trying to tell me something important, the telly on, somebody banging something over there, the dog starts barking at the door, and all of a sudden I'm like, I can't take another thing right now. But that's because before all those things happened, I was already in that place. I was already running on my nerves. I was already and almost anticipating it was going to happen, and just like, I'm just going to get annoyed at everybody. Whereas when I give myself the space and time, and the dinner's organised, my business day is done, and then Ash comes in to tell me something, I can take that in whilst the kids are making the noise, but I just don't notice it at that point because I'm feeling in control of the situation. But that's only by choices that I made earlier in the day,
Yeah.
and it's remembering that it's not just okay, it is good to make the choices for these things. We're allowed to make the choice that making dinner for our family is important, and that's as important part of the day as it is for our most important client that we dealt with an hour before that. It's okay to say these things, and it's such a learning curve, when of what's high on the priority list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and the last joy question is one thing you're leaving behind and one thing you're moving forward into next year's joy journey into 2026.
That's really hard. So I'm leaving behind the hustle. That's definitely something that I am leaving behind. And I think I'm just going to take forward all of the things that we've talked about today, all of those things that I've learned. And I think the test of those things is when it gets, super busy and so on, and whether those things keep going. And so far they have. But yeah, just about coming back to those things that are really important and that I hold dear to me when it gets tough or busy or whatever. And knowing that I can make my business work for me as a person as well as for the bills,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there will be a point that one of those practices, those non-negotiables, there'll be a week that one gets dropped.
It'll
But
be
it's
January when it's freezing and I'll be, "No, I'm not taking the dog for a walk this morning. It's dark and it's snowing," or whatever. That'll be it. No, I hope it won't. I hope that I will stick with it. But yeah, that's probably
But it's one of those things, but it's knowing like I always talk about like having toolboxes, and those non-negotiables are now part of your toolbox. And it is okay that sometimes one of the tools doesn't get used, but it's us having the ability and the awareness to know that that tool is there when, right, I feel a bit off and I can feel those nerves coming back in. Maybe it's a Sunday scary that you suddenly think, where's that come from? And be like, I didn't do my walks this week, or I didn't see my dad, or I didn't read, or, whatever it was that you dropped, like, right, that's the first thing I need to do tomorrow. Tomorrow, then I need to make sure that's back in,
yeah.
because life. And even our non negotiables, sometimes, some days and weeks are there to be got through. And
Yeah.
there's nothing we can do about those days and weeks, but they are the anomalies when we
It's that
haven't.
80/20 thing, isn't it? If
Yes.
you're doing those things 80% of the time, then there's room for 20% of it to be when life is lifing.
Hmm.
Um, but it's that consistency thing, isn't it? And consistency doesn't look like doing everything every day. It's a thing over time, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, it sounds like 2026 is going to be a very exciting year for you. Sorry, I keep dropping the thing out my hand. Don't play with something on the
Hopefully,
podcast.
yes, hopefully watch this space. But yeah, I feel like I'm confident in the direction I'm going, I think is the best way to say it.
Definitely
So yeah.
sounds like quarter four for you of this year has been a transformative time.
Yes. Yeah, massively. And you've helped with that. So thank you, because our chats have
You're so
really,
welcome. You're so, so welcome. If people want to come and find you, where do they do that?
So I'm mostly on Instagram as Any Something Photography. I'm on Facebook the same. And my website is anysomething.co.uk. And I'd love to see you
Amazing.
there.
All of the links will be in the show notes, so you can just go and click and go and find Laura, and you won't be disappointed if you do. So we do talk about Joy Legacy in the past podcast. What would be your Joy Legacy now?
I think just showing people that those small moments are really the big ones. That's what I'm all about personally, and now in the business, and how you can make space for those small moments and to enjoy them without feeling like you're rushed all the time. So yeah, that's my core belief, if you like.
And do you know what I haven't said before? And it literally has just come to me now as you said it. And I don't normally do this when somebody does their Joy Legacy. I normally wrap it up, but I want to say this, so I'm going to say it. Is that comes through in your photography.
Thank you. That means a lot.
It
That's
really, really does. It
I feel
just,
like that tattooed on me or something, because
yeah,
yeah,
when you
what I
said that about the small moments, because I think that's what comes through. I think in your photography, it's that quiet power. It's not, it's really difficult to explain when you don't, it's not showy or flashy or in your
yeah,
face or, no, but it's powerful. And I think having exactly what you said, that's kind of your core belief, that definitely comes through, whether it's product or brand.
thank you. That means a lot, and that's that shows the power of doing the work, I suppose, doesn't it? And sticking to your beliefs, and even when you sort of move away from them a little bit, coming back to them.
Mhm.
That that's exactly what I want to bring to my clients and to my business. And like you said, don't want it to be showy or some big production. It's My photography style is very natural, hopefully very joyful and light. And yeah, to hear that
I
comes
think it
across.
is, and I think it's that perfect example. We've talked about joy, and we've talked about that I don't necessarily think joy is what people would perceive, or if you ask somebody to even draw joy or put a colour to joy. And I think for you as well, it's you're helping those business owners show their joy, because
Yes,
at the end of
the
the
joy
day,
brings
if
people
it's
down.
a product, that is their joy, that is their passion. And if it's a business owner having like a brand shoot and having headshots and things like that, they want to show themselves. They want to show but they want to kind of be the best version of themselves in photos. You know, we've discussed that not everybody loves getting their photo taken. It's not their favorite thing in the world. And they probably think there's never going to be a good photo of themselves. But they might not look at the photo and think, oh my goodness, I'm a film star. But they might look at the photo and think, that's me. You've got me. And I think that's kind of the best that we can hope for and want
Absolutely.
from brand photos. So yeah, sorry, I wouldn't normally do that after the Joy Legacy, but it
No, thank you. I really
completely
appreciate that. That's
it
made my week.
stopped me in my tracks there a wee bit. And when something just comes into your head, sometimes you just have to say it. So absolutely, your photography shows that those joy in the little moments, and that's the powerful thing. Thank you so much for coming back onto the podcast. I've absolutely loved it. Even a bit more so than the first time. I think I'm really enjoying these second conversations.
It's good because you can kind of, get more into the story, I suppose, and dig a bit deeper, can't you? So, but thank you for having me. It's been a real privilege to come back. And
Yeah.
it's been lovely. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Joy Work Show, the podcast that goes beyond the surface of business, right to the heart, to explore the real joy and the real stories behind success. Not just the moments of celebration, but the challenges that pave the way for them. I'm Diane, and today I cannot believe that we are celebrating our 1 year anniversary. Technically, it's tomorrow. This episode will come out the 1st of December, and our first episode came out on the 2nd of December. That's just the way the dates fell last year. But this week is our 1 year anniversary. We have been going for a whole year. I am flabbergasted, delighted, not surprised, because I set out for what I wanted to do with this podcast. More of that coming later on in the week with my solo episode and my reflections. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring you a series of 4 episodes that are the people who were listened to the most, downloaded the most, liked the most, shared the most. I used the data, and the 4 people that came up, I could not be more delighted about. So this series, I'm inviting back some of the guests whose conversations shaped the show in its first year. And our first one is a special return because I'm welcoming back Laura. If you listen to her original episodes, which I will link in the show notes, you'll remember her grounded honesty, her commitment to building a life and business that actually feels good, and her ability to name the things we all feel but rarely say. And over the past year, Laura has lived her word, calm, in a way that has transformed both her business and her personal life. Today, in this episode, we talk about the shift from hustle energy to intentional calm, how choosing slowness has actually created more growth, the power of small, meaningful moments in finding joy, and what happens when you align your business with your values, how intentional choices have supported her well-being, and what this year has taught her about balance, boundaries, and being present. This is less hustle, but absolutely not less ambition. The conversation is steady, warm, and full of reminders that joy doesn't come from the big leaps. It comes from the small, consistent, conscious choices we make every day. But as always, it is so much better to hear from the guests themselves, even second time round. So let's go.